that he got out, he took off his shirt and his shoes, right?
We were like, what is he doing?
Because he had tried for like 10 minutes to say, look to the left, look to the left.
He was trying to
I don't
help.
think anybody understood English. I don't know what happened.
They did.
And
now,
so,
also, you're right. Add that part in there. They don't understand English. So we're like, this doesn't look right. This doesn't look right. And he's just like flooring it. We're like, holy smokes, here we go.
Yeah, well, there was a lot of sudden exclamatory prayers, I promise that. Much exclamations.
I'm Pastor Brian. I'm part of the Ghana mission team. I've been attending every year since 2018, and now I'm one of the leaders. For the past several years, I've coordinated and helped lead the Ghana mission, and we're going to take some time today to just talk with a few of our members from the this year's 2024 team, and just share some recaps and some takeaways from our time there, some challenges, some highlights. To just give you an overview of what the Ghana mission looks like, and to hear it from some people that were there on the ground. So let's go around the table and everybody introduce yourself, and we'll start with you, Abby.
I'm Abby West. This was my first year going with Ghana. Is that all you want me to
Yeah,
do?
yeah,
Okay.
yeah, you're good.
My name's Carmen Givens. I attend at Northside. This was my second year going to Ghana.
I'm Abby's sister, Samantha West. This is also my first year, and we attend Mountain View.
Cool. So second year, and you were on my team last year, and y'all were, and the way this happened this year is we had 3 teams, so each group was divided up under the 3 of the pastors, and they were all on a different team. I don't have anybody from my team here, but we'll go through. We'll just kind of share what led you to Ghana. But y'all mentioned that y'all are sisters, right?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yes.
So what prompted? Who got the first nudge to say, hey, maybe we need to go to a meeting, or did y'all do it together?
I feel like we kind of both discussed attending Mountain View together. We definitely went for different reasons, but we both we also worked together. So. The specific job that we have is at Belmont Abbey College, which is a Christian-based school, and it's not a school that, there's a lot of schools that say they're Christian-based or liberal arts-based, and they have a denomination that they follow by, but our school it's Catholic, which obviously we are not, but it abides by very strongly. So, having regular worship, Bible studies, so that has influenced some of our goals per se, and so that kind of helps join us together, especially for Ghana as we're trying to kind of walk that path or that next step together.
What you got, Ed?
Oh,
Yeah. What could you add to that?
so I think it's very different perspective to see how, like we have monks on campus, so not a lot of schools around here have that. So it's definitely a different perspective to see how somebody devotes their life every single day to God, or to God and to worshiping Him. When there's, like us as a Christian, we're like, yeah, we go to church on Sundays and that's enough. When in all reality, like that's not enough. Like what else can you do to really pursue God, and what can you do to learn more about Him and to get your relationship closer?
Mm-hmm.
I would definitely say that, we decided to go together, obviously, but each of our paths, per se, are different, and why we chose is different. But it was just a good experience that we were blessed with the opportunity to go together. It's just, I don't want to say convenience, but it was just right
the stars
aligned.
align.
Yeah.
Why did you choose to go?
So I feel like my big thing that we teach our players, per se, is intentionality. And so my whole adult per se life, as I'm trying to figure out my next steps, is to be intentional and be purposeful. And so one thing that growing up, I always grew up in a Christian household. Like my parents are religious. We grew up going to Bible study, and my parents are involved in the church and all these steps. And like that's a checkbox that I fulfilled as a child, but I never intentionally did myself. So I went to church, I did the things, but I really didn't take that next step to devote myself to it. I was a Christian, and, I attended like the FCA and, all these things that young adults check for. But I didn't take those intentional steps. And I felt like God called me to be like, Sam, you need to wake up. Like, this is your opportunity. You have the financial burden, like, there's no burden. Like, this is your time that you can take these next steps, especially when I work at a Christian-based school where my players depend on me for that. I want to be their role model that takes them to that next step, not just their coach. So it was just kind of that alignment that really was a calling for me.
I agree.
Why did you? And then we'll go to Carmen after you're done. But what led you? What called you?
I think for me, I don't. So me and Sam, we have like two different personalities. Like we might be sisters, but we're completely different.
Night and day.
I agree.
Night and day.
I think for me, I've always grown up thinking I was, doing enough. Like I was doing what my mom and dad told me to do. I was going to church, but I don't feel like I was fulfilling what I needed to be personally fulfilling. I think that, I was kind of, I don't know, like separated from everything in a way. Like I was kind of set in stone, like with what I'm doing. Like this is what I believe. Like I go to church. I may not read in the Bible all the time. I may not do Bible studies, but I go to church every Sunday, so I'm doing enough. And I was kind of set in that stone before. And then we saw the mission one day. We were going to church. We were actually at Mountain View, and we saw this Ghana mission trip, and we just both felt like it was a calling to us. Like maybe this is what we needed both to wake up, because obviously what I was doing was not successful. Like I still had a lot of anxiety. I had a lot of worry, and I feel like, and I still do. I think everybody does. But I feel like growing my relationship with God has definitely like just completely helped, like eased that almost out of the way. And I just felt like I really needed to go to push myself out the boundaries.
I like it.
This is my second year. The first year, I think that I'd had my passport for several years and had just never used it. And when I was listening to Pastor Brian and some of the other people talking about it, I'd always wanted to go on a mission trip somewhere. A church I used to attend would go to a different country in Africa, but it never lined up to where I could. So it was, my children were younger, or I was like in school myself. And so last year, God just kind of arranged, everything was like, yes, you can go. And I think it teaches you to be so appreciative of everything you have here, but it also teaches you to recognize how appreciative the people there are of everything they have.
Yeah.
And for me, it wasn't, I got a 3-year visa because they suggested if you're going to go more, you think of more than one time, going a 3-year visa. And so I'm like, well, I'm going. And, God showed up in just a lot of ways for me, taught me a lot of things about myself that I thought I had fixed. I had not, because I need God to fix it, not me. So anyway, yes, that's my opinion.
Carmen, you mentioned, you shared about this year, and you mentioned this is your second year going. What prompted you to sign back up for that second year? Because I know the first year is you got a lot of unanswered questions.
Yeah.
So you got a lot of those answered in the trip and all the other stuff. But what pushed you to sign up for that second year?
Well, apart from having still this single mom mindset in my brain that as my kids were growing up, if you got something, you used it, right? I had a 3-year visa. I was going to go. I've got one more. I'm going to go next year because y'all going to fix that so I can go. It is a beautiful thing to go and serve people. And I do like the very most basic things. Like I take blood pressures, or I just tell people, come sit here because I'm not medical. And so I try there's nothing like serving people and giving of what you have to other people. And I can't explain that, except if you get the opportunity, you should just go do that, wherever it's overseas or in your own community. We give out of our own abundance, and our abundance comes from God.
Cool. I like that. So y'all are a few months back here now after your first trip. What, and you can just kind of chime in, but you heard Carmen mentioned what brought her back for the second year, just because we made her get a 3-year visa and she wasn't going to waste that visa. So I know how to get people back. We're just going to make everybody get a 3-year visa so you don't waste the money. At least you're honest. Hey, but no, do you have a calling to go back next year? Both of y'all, one of y'all?
I think for me personally, one thing that touched me the most would be all the little kids and all the children and just all the people there. I'm so excited to go back next year because I met some friends over there that I think about all the time. And I want to go back and I want to see how they're doing. I want to see if they're still in school when they were little kids, but their heart is just so open to God and they're so thankful for everything. And you just see them playing soccer with a ball of trash. It's just insane. And I really want to see them grow up and see how their relationship with God grows.
I know before we even left, a few of us were like, okay, we're going to make a notes list and be like, all right, we need mac and cheese. We need the most basic stuff that you don't even need. We were making a list. We're like, okay, we're not going to turn our money in because we're going to need it for next year. And all these things that we were already arranging before we even left. So in short answer, yes. I think there's always events in your life that you're like, man, I can't let that go. I remember it. It did more for me. When I went, my whole mindset was, I can give to them because I've been blessed where I'm at. But they gave to me more than I could reciprocate for them. So as long as I'm willing and I'm able, I think that it's almost like a God wink, this opportunity that I use it and need it as much every year as they need us every year. So absolutely, yeah.
I think it's definitely very, very scary, just the mindset of, hey, I'm going over to Africa. That's terrifying. We grew up and our parents are protective parents. They know everything that we do. So it was just very terrifying to
We weren't sheltered.
We were not sheltered, but it's just very, very terrifying to go over there when, our mom and dad can't come pick us up.
Yeah,
it's
absolutely.
Definitely just a whole experience itself.
Yeah,
there's a definite level of commitment once you get on the plane and you're on the other side of the ocean.
Yeah, absolutely.
There's no turning back.
People, when they ask you about the mission or they ask you about Ghana, you're like, these people know more about me than people I've lived with for years. Some of my best of friends, because you're just so vulnerable when you get over there. And not only because of the positioning you're in, but just the amount of weight that is taken off of you. I just can't even explain the weight of, I trust Carmen so much. I only met her for 20 hours before I went, but I would trust you with my life against all these other people. So it's just a very eye-opening. The church did such a good job of making it not scary for us. Yeah. You're scared to go to Africa, you're scared to get out of North Carolina or your bubble. But I felt so at peace. Mm-hmm. I didn't feel like I was harmful. The people there are so welcoming, and don't get me wrong, every place that you go, there's going to be a few people that are scared. They're scared of us. Yeah. It's kind of they're more scared of us than really we are them. But overall, it was just, you feel at peace. You're taken care of. The community aspect was just intensified by so much more.
Okay. What did you think? And reflecting back, my first year, I had a lot of the same things y'all processed your first year. But the thing that stood out to me, that still stands out, I guess I noticed it, but it's not as prevalent the first year, but it's just the hospitality and the genuine smiles and the nature of all the Ghanaian people as far as when we show up. How has that affected y'all? You 2 years and 1 year. I mean, what do you think back on that today? When you're driving around today, you're driving around in traffic or waiting in the drive-through or something?
We always said we would never have road rage ever again. When we got back, we're like, there's no point ever again to have road
You've
rage.
heard enough like horn honks just in that one week to
Yes.
suffice your life.
Every time that you go, there's no turn signal. So every
No.
time you go somewhere, you just honk the horn and he just whips it over and you're like, Lord, please.
And then you get to the village and everybody's smiling
Oh,
and
yeah.
hugging you
Yeah.
and just so glad you're there, so thankful.
I feel like here we say thank you and we think that's enough. Whereas there, they're giving you everything they have. This is the only food I have for today and you helped me. I'm giving it all to you.
And I think about it's like it's acts of service, which is something we use in I guess in our faith and in recovery. Like last year I had what we call Mission Light because last year my village was like right off the main road, and we had like these little houses, and there was like a bathroom. We had to pour water in it, but we could like go in someone's house. Mm-hmm. And we had a lady, or maybe it was a couple ladies, who brought us chicken and rice every day for lunch. And it was usually the hot rice that you might need some ranch to go on to eat it, except people who like hot stuff. But everything, I mean, they are always about here, we'll take the chairs out here. Mm-hmm. No, we'll help you clean that up. And we're serving them, and they're trying to serve us with what little they have. Mm-hmm. And that's where I think that's what really continues to draw me back there, is that I'm not a rich person, but I was blessed to be born in America and be blessed to have a job that lets me go to these places. And it's just so much. It's just like a layer the next thing. But they are the kindest people. In our experience with the flood, just a guy who decides to get on a motorcycle to lead us out of a flood. Didn't have to do that.
Let's talk about that a minute. Each year,
I'm going to cry, but okay, go ahead.
Each year, we tell everybody when they fill out the application, and they hear it a lot. Once you sign up and you're on the team, you're officially, we like to say, you're on mission. Mm-hmm. And what that means is it's not in your timeline, it's not on any schedule, and it's going to happen when it happens. And if it doesn't happen, it doesn't happen. And it could be that we wake up one morning and we think we're going here, and then you go in a totally different direction. And that's just the way it is. So each year there's challenges that come up that we have to navigate. There was a year or two ago, we lost all our luggage. It never made it. Didn't come back for months until after we got back, and mission still happened. The mission still got accomplished. This year, Carmen and Sammy's team, one thing that we've had the past 2 years is a lot of rain. That's created some challenges. Didn't prevent the mission from happening, but did cause some redirection. But Carmen and Sammy's team faced a particular challenge leaving their village one day, and you alluded to it, but just kind of recap what happened, and then we'll dive into that a little bit.
Okay, I'm going to give a really tiny part of my own personal testimony. Is I've struggled due to just my own history with my parents being divorced, my father dying when I was young. I've been divorced twice. It was to this anyway. So I've dealt a lot with loss and trust, and and me thinking that I have this all figured out now because I'm older. So the first night that we were in the village and we were going, I was like, we can't really go here. And Charles was like, no, we're going. Pastor Charles was like, no, we're going.
Well, the baseline of it too is, we're at our mission home, which is, has a bathroom, has beds, very nice, We leave that, it's 2.5 hours away. So it's not like we're, going to the food line that has a paved road and you're like, oh, I can make it in anything. We're going down these potholes that are 50 potholes, that's only dirt, about 15 miles off the road to our village, which is a dirt road with just jungles on the side.
It would take you an hour to get there, like here, but since there's no path, like nothing, it takes you about 2.5 to get
For
there.
sure. Second to that is they drive like 85 miles per hour. I mean, they are booking it. But go.
Yeah, and that's important. Those things are important. So the first day we went and we left to just try to find some facilities and cold drink. And there's like a whole story there that I'm gonna let someone else have another time. So because it's really long. So we God just shows up in amazing ways that even when you're sitting on the side of the road, and I can just tell you that I am working on my fear, but to be sitting on the side of the road with no power, and I know step one, right? I mean, we're powerless over whatever. I was powerless in that situation, and waiting for someone else to make a decision that you can leave. We don't usually face that here. We don't face that, is that you're stuck right here on the side of the road and there's someone else to make the decision if you can leave. So we ended up, the first night actually, we went back to our village, which I can tell you right now, that was not my plan to go back to that village the first night because it took us a long time to get out. Then we went back and Pastor Charles stood in the headlights of a van and preached and brought people to Christ.
The weather had taken the electricity out. And as you can imagine, we talk about poverty. That was poverty to its 10th degree. Mm-hmm. So you go over, there's already minimal electricity. So then, the smallest inconvenience makes it where there's no power. Yeah. So we're literally standing, he's preaching, and they're just pouring it back into him. Mm-hmm. They don't need, the beautiful church. They don't need the this, and this. They don't need the AC and the comfortable seats. They're just sitting there and just dumping themselves back into whatever he says. It's Pastor Charles speaks in English, they speak in Tweed. It's just back and forth, and you're just as a you're just watching it just in like amazement. Like is this actually happening?
So at one point, and I don't know, I think I've told pastors, I know I've told Brian this. At one point, I was like, I'm going to talk to Brian, and I'm not ever going to be on Pastor Charles' team again. Because, again, and I recognize that was fear. I do. And, I mean, I've told Pastor Charles since then how much I love and appreciate him. But I was coming from a place of fear. Like, when we finally made it back that first night, we had devotions, right? We had devotions. Mm-hmm. I cannot tell you for 2 seconds probably what I said. I mean, and again, I know where it was coming from as I, do my self-reflection later. So the next day we were going, Brian's team had already said there's a terrible, awful, backed up wreck. Did y'all get there the second day or not? Okay. So
very late.
Okay. So this was the night. This was the day. It was the second day. We were going to our village the same way we went the first day. No. Again, we turn around and we go back because one of our nurses knows a back way to get to our village.
Yeah, so when we were first driving there, the water was flooded from the rain.
It was definitely rainy.
But we were still able to drive. And so she was like, I promise, this way there's no hills. There's no hills. It's better road, better dirt road. And we're like, okay, she's got an we got to trust her.
She's confident.
Yeah, she is confident. Mind you, she's probably, 19 years old, and we're putting all of our trust in her. But anyway.
So we get, and I'm going to say this very quickly, we get to the village very late. And I mean, this is where at one point we were going to the village, they were laying down branches across the road for our truck or our van to get purchased to go up the hill. Y'all, I'm old, and I promise you I prayed more that day than I have prayed in a long time. So we got there, and our van driver, bless his heart, he did park. He pulled back up to the top of the hill. If he had not done that, I don't know if we could have left.
We thought that since it rained the first day, that, okay, it's not supposed to rain again. Not supposed to rain again. We can make it here. It'll dry up throughout the day. That way when we leave at night, no problem. We only had that one hill to get over, They were putting, the palm branches out to get some traction. And we were like sliding like we were teenagers getting to parking. Like we were going
Yes.
side and side and side.
Yeah.
But we made it. So we go and we do the mission throughout the day.
And it's raining, and it's raining more, and it's raining more, and then it just keeps raining. And so eventually Pastor Charles, bless his heart, I love that man, he said, we're going to just leave. It was like probably about 5 o'clock, 3 or
So basically we did the medical mission part.
and we'd gotten there late anyway, so that took most of the afternoon. So we're getting ready to leave.
As it's pouring rain.
And we get up into our van, and so we start driving towards the our way home.
Right.
And we recognize that we are passing through just huge parts of the road that are flooded. And because here in America, it's turn around, don't drown, right? And they tell you that a lot. There was no turning around, we're not going to
There's
turn around.
one way you're going in, one way
Because there's
out.
water behind you and water in front of you. You have to make a choice. And bless those drivers who drove anyway. We tried to get out one way. We had to turn around and go back to the original way we came in that morning. And
Some perspective too on the flood part is if you can sit and look 500 feet in front of you, that's how much the puddle was. It's not like in America where it's a small divot and you're just like, okay, please get me through, and you go around and you're good. This is the whole length that you see is nothing but depth of water.
it's just water. And we don't know how deep it is because we know it's a dirt road.
Right.
Dirt roads, if you're in the mountains, you know what that's like. They're not flat gravel roads. There's like holes and there's ditches where the rain runs through. So we were going the shortcut, and I'm just telling you, I was praying, and these girls were just amazing. And at one point, it's getting dark. It's starting to get dark now too. And this guy comes by on a motorcycle. And we didn't know who he was. He had a red helmet on, I knew that. And he would go in front of us and he would stop. And he would walk out in the water to show the driver where to go.
He would roll his pants up and he would walk, and then he'd walk a little bit, and he'd be like, all right, you're going to go this much left. Then you're going to jerk it to the right and go this much right and move us.
And I was praying
back
during
and
that
forth.
part. I was praying. That was I probably didn't even see that. All I seen was the man going around us, and then I would see him leading. I didn't even see all that. So, and he would just disappear. And then I can remember several times on that road going, I can remember one time even asking, like, where's our motorcycle guy? Where's the little angel guy?
Yeah.
The quickest prayer ever answered for me, probably in a long time, is as soon as I prayed that, as soon as I said it out loud, he just comes right beside me. That was God for me. Even though for him, he was just a guy from a village who was like, I'm going to go help these people. Mm-hmm. At one point, Pastor Charles, and this is probably a lot where I learned to trust him. Not to trust God, but to trust God in him. Was that he got out he took off his shirt and his shoes, right?
We were like, what is he doing?
Because he had tried for like 10 minutes to say, look to the left, look to the left.
He was trying to
I
help.
don't think anybody understood English. I don't know what happened.
They did.
And
now,
so,
also, you're right. Add that part in there. They don't understand English. So we're like, this doesn't look right. This doesn't look right. And he's just like flooring it. We're like, holy smokes, here we go.
Yeah, well, there was a lot of sudden exclamatory prayers, I promise that. Much exclamations. But when Pastor Charles got, and again, this goes back a lot to my loss and to losing my dad, is that I don't expect people, especially men, to come back. It's a part of my life, whether through divorce or death or just bad choices. And so to see him get out of the van get out into the water. I was like, okay. And then he came back. And God showed me, you think you're still in control. I don't ever go anywhere without my car. If I go somewhere, my car goes with me because I'm going to leave. I had nothing there. Nothing. I could not go anywhere. But God showed me that I'm not in control and that I need to learn to trust Him and trust the people He puts in my life.
I think we all go, like we all say, what do you want out of Ghana? We all go for a particular reason. And typically it's a selfish reason. Like, I want this to come out of it. Like, I want to be better. I want this and that. But we all have, we also say we're on a mission. So, the devil puts all these paths and purposes to prevent the mission. So, it rains the first day, we're late, right? That's the first one. The second one's a car wreck. The third one, it floods, and we still go back the next day to have service. And so I know personally for me, whenever we were in the van and all this is going on, I'm a person that doesn't necessarily want control, but I just get so uptight almost. Like I want to like not necessarily help, but like I want control in a way. And I've never, like when we talk about it, I was trying to explain this to Abby when we came back, is like I've never felt more at peace. Like I wasn't scared, and like it was just this light bulb for me that, why was I not scared? There's a reason. This God put this in front of me. He showed me that this is how it was. He was in control, and watching people around me show how much He was in control was just a new like stepping stone, I think, in my faith. I was like, whatever happens. I'm here. I felt peaceful.
Yeah. Well, and after me, and I told someone later, I said, wherever Charles says that he wants to go, I'll believe that God's leading him. Mm-hmm. I'll go wherever He wants me to, and I'll go with him. And it's not just because he's Charles, it's because God showed me that I have to recognize that my power, my control is just a figment of my imagination in a lot of places. And it's a beautiful experience, even when it's scary, even when I talk about it now, and I know people say me all boo-hooey and stuff. But that's because I think anytime you go outside of your comfort zone, you begin to see different things inside of you that are challenged. And so, that's still something that's challenging for me. And so that's still God working on me. Mm-hmm. And I just have to accept that I'm one of His more stubborn children. Mm-hmm. And sometimes He has to take extra time with me.
You mentioned a lot of, that was a lot. And we've talked about that. No, that's great. But sometimes it takes us getting from where we're comfortable, we get moved from one place to somewhere else for God to reveal stuff to us. And through that flooded road and all the stuff that we all encountered, I've been multiple times, and I know what Ghanaian roads are, and I know what rain in Ghana is, but the road I drove on was a Ghanaian road that was flooded under construction. So that was a level that I had yet to encounter until this time, which it had many stumbling blocks in it. Mm-hmm. But did God reveal some stumbling blocks in your life on that trip that might not have been revealed here, or either you kind of knew about it and weren't addressing them? And I think Carmen, you hit that. Is there something you
Well,
want to
I
add
just
to
think,
that?
Again, if I hadn't been in that situation, and it took me really coming back here, probably at a CR meeting or at a life group meeting, to recognize why that was so upsetting in my soul. And why was it so upsetting, and why was there such relief? And for me, it's because it took me a while to recognize that I still have stuff. We all have stuff, and dealing with the pain of loss and grief in your your past that you didn't deal with, God will use whatever He needs to use to help you look at those stumbling blocks. And I'm not saying it's sometimes it's painful, but what I know from my prayers being answered immediately in that van was that whatever stumbling block God gave me, He also gave me access to His power. So that, yeah, He wanted me to see that challenge, but He also wanted me to understand that His grace was still there, His power was still there. He just wanted me to see it. Because if we don't, in recovery, it's our sickness, our secrets keep us sick. And so when we have things inside of us that we just don't deal with, those are things that I think can be stumbling blocks to our faith and to our belief in what God can do in our lives.
I think that all across the world, in any aspect, we're always people that we have to see it to believe it. We have to see it to believe it. And so, I think that's why there's a lot of unchurched people, is because they haven't seen it to believe it. And so it's not really they don't look at the small indistinct details. They just want Jesus to walk through the door, and they're like, okay, that's why I believe now. And so I think that we each have something that we took into the mission and what we wanted to see to believe. And, it helps you in that buy-in. And so I know for me personally, like being, whatever we saw, feeling relaxed, seeing breakthroughs from people that are your family now, that's your seeing to believe. It's just a representation of the trials and tribulations that you go through in your life, and boom, there's the result, there's your answer. I don't think any of us that come back from Ghana are like, man, that flood was crazy, like I'll never go back. I'm more like, oh my gosh, like that is the best thing that could have happened for me personally. Like all these things that I'm trying, and these things that are covering my eyes were finally opened. And so I think that's part of, it's also too in life, you take the positive out of things that happen, or you take the negative, you get to choose. And so, God put that in my life to put a purpose of seeing the positive out of it, of the things we're working on.
So God presented a stumbling block, or actually revealed a stumbling block through another situation.
Right.
And because you were removed, it allowed you to process it and continue to process it, but also work through it. And then also God's showed up and worked through that situation.
Right.
I think that's huge, and that's just a. Did you expect that when you got on the plane? Was that even on your list?
No.
Was that even on your list?
No, I feel like people. I remember when me and Abby went to our first meeting, and that you guys were talking about, now on mission, there's this, that. Do you guys remember that this happened and this happened? And we left the first meeting, and we were like, holy smokes, what are we doing? We were like, oh my gosh.
That this year.
Yeah,
There's
we're
a
like,
lot of stuff that goes
holy
on that you
smokes.
don't think. Like,
No.
you don't even think about, like, how, like, you don't even think about a lot of stuff that's going on.
No.
So y'all faced the flooded road and having to
Right.
cross it. You ultimately ended up getting through it with the help of the motorcycle navigator showed up and got you through, and then got you back to the mission house. And what are some of the conversations that your team in particular had after that? Was there?
Well, I think for me, because I know I talked about it probably a lot, was that God is there in the moment. He is right there. And that's one thing, even when I was upset because I wasn't in control, and I never doubted that God was right there. I never doubted that whatever happened, God was with me. I think, we have such this little American idea of that we're going to go from here to here. It's going to take like 20 minutes, No, we have a very American idea of what travel is like. And for me, I just remember that, that our team was so grateful and thankful for God's protection and for God answering prayers to get us home. And it was just a miracle for me. It was. And I want to go back because not that I want to do in the flooded van, Again, not saying that, but I do want to go back. I want to go back to help. I want to go back to bring Christ, and I want to go back to grow, because I think that our growth is continuing from Ghana. I don't think that we just like went to Ghana and grew. I think that we continue to grow. The effects, it's like, the law of the harvest. You reap long after you sow. And so I think that for me, that's what's happening, is that I'm still benefiting. I'm still recognizing God's still, digging up stuff out of me from when he first started in Ghana. So
I think for the first couple minutes or however much time we had getting back, I think we sat in silence. We didn't have a whole lot to say at that point. We were just kind of in disbelief. And I got back and I was telling Abby, of course, I promise the water was up this high. Like it's not something that you tell. It's almost like you're making the story up. No, that can't even happen. That can't even happen. So I think for that first little bit, you're almost you want to blame it on a miracle. You're like, oh, this is a miracle. This is a miracle. And then you sit and you reflect and you're like, I witnessed God's miracle. This is something that literally just happened in my eyes that I got to be a part of. And I don't think that everybody in their life can see something so black and white. And I think that it was just a perfect opportunity for us it's black and white. There's no gray to it. We either drowned or we survived. There was no back and forth. So I think that kind of is a piece that plays into it, because there's no other solution. You can't sit and say,
Now, each year, every group faces challenges and every team faces challenges, and that's what us as the leaders have to try to navigate to make sure that we're doing everything we can to direct the flow. But there's always one team. There seems to be always one team that just everything clicks. They have a short drive and everything just clicks. There's no flooded roads. And I think Abby had that experience this year. She was close and there was no flooded roads. And, and the last day, because of that situation your village was in, with the result of the rains, we were able to send everybody to that village on Friday to really love on that group of people, because we sent the entire team to that one village because the other two were not accessible. So what did you take away from being able to, because initially I assigned y'all to separate teams, but y'all were together the last day and then you were with everybody else. How did that, reflect back on that last day with everybody around compared to the 2 days y'all had without everybody?
I think it was cool to bring my family over to show, because you can show pictures. I can take all these pictures of all the community that we're in, the people that we're with, but it's not the same as actually going into the village and seeing them. And I mean, we were on the side of the road. We were in the parking lot of a taxi cab business, and it was just fun to see, to bring Sam specifically in to that area. And I was like, this is my friend Joseph. This is my friend Isaac. Yeah. It was just so much fun to bring her in and to invite her. It felt like my little piece of my little slice of heaven in Ghana. It felt were those little kids that I met, and it was just really, really fun and really exciting for me to bring her in and to show her almost show off this is my people. But it was a really fun experience, especially because we're helping all these people, we're giving them medicines, and I just felt like I was in a whole my little niche. I knew what I was doing, and it was just a lot of fun to bring her into it.
So relationships are important,
yes.
And you formed relationships with team members now that'll actually last a lifetime.
Yes.
And I share that with everybody every year. But there's one thing, and Carmen mentioned this briefly, but each night we do devotions as a group, and it's regardless of what time you get back. I mean, it don't matter if we're gonna do them devotions, and everybody's gonna be in the room, and then you can go to bed.
Yeah.
But we like to say that's what's said in that room. We keep there. But there was a lot of challenges that the teams were facing. But this particular year, I will say there was a lot of the team members' families were going through stuff at home that they on the other side of the world, so they just can't jump in the car or ride down the road. And there was a lot of that. It wasn't just one team member; it was multiple team members going through that. And there was one particular night that was pretty heavy, and we circled up and we prayed as a group, and won't go into detail about that, but everybody went to bed with a peace that we prayed, but it was still kind of heavy that night, wasn't it?
Yeah, absolutely.
But the next morning, I want y'all to focus on this, and I want to mention one thing, but a kind word or gratitude goes a long way. And could somebody reflect on the coffee cups?
Oh, yeah.
Anybody remember the coffee cups?
Well, and they were like, there was one that I got that said,
Oh, wait a minute. I need to preference that. Let me preference it before you describe it. I was given 2 stacks of coffee cups to where folks had written little words of encouragement on them. I didn't tell y'all. I just threw them in the suitcase. And for some reason, they didn't show up until that day. And I was waiting every morning. I was like, where are the coffee cups with the writing on them? I was like, they hadn't showed up yet. But I know now why, because they were set there I put another stack out, and here they come out. I didn't even know it. But so after that particular night, everybody woke up and got their cup of coffee, and then, go ahead, Carmen.
I just remember one of mine, I took pictures of everyone, but now I can remember one of them that said, he came to serve and not be served. And that was probably not the message I wanted that morning, because I was probably still in my feelings about stuff. I mean, I'm just being honest, y'all. God knows who exactly how I am. He still loves me. So, you know, it's amazing that someone took their time here, and that's where you talk about serving in missions. It's not always going on a mission. It's not always that. This person literally took it upon themselves just to like write messages on coffee cups that wouldn't be seen until, you know, a week or so later. And she didn't know who was getting those. They didn't. Whoever did it, they didn't know who was getting them. But the message that God had them put on the cups were the message that we needed. One of mine got, I think, said, all lives matter, which is helpful for me. I mean, I know that. But again, God just uses stuff. He uses it. It's not in that moment. It may be weeks later. It was a blessing.
And I can say, as a leader on the team, I knew that night when everybody left the room, it was kind of heavy and there was a lot going on, but I was able to see the whole, and I think y'all experienced, but the whole momentum shifted that next morning just with those words of encouragement, those words of gratitude that everybody was looking, hey, look at the coffee cup.
Everybody was looking forward to it.
And everybody was looking at, what's your coffee cup saying?
What's yours say?
And it was just so cool. Yeah, mine said God is in control. That's what mine got. You know, I'm a control guy. So, you know, I was like, well, okay, I got you. So, but that speaks so much to what just little things like that we take away. And I think everybody's brought that back, that gratitude, that word of encouragement. Share that with someone, because you never know the impact it's going to make.
It's true.
And I assure you, when they were writing those cups, they had no idea when you know, what was going to happen there. So just to wrap things up, we do something in the room, and our last devotion, I ask everybody for basically a few words or just a 1-sentence takeaway wrap up of the entire trip. If somebody asks you what was my trip like, put it in 1 sentence or just a few words. And I'm gonna share. And I actually wrote these down, and this is the actual paper right here where I wrote this down on. I wrote everybody's name, and I'm gonna share y'all's, if that's okay. And Carmen said, gratitude for roads, good roads. So that's good. And that was, but there's so much more. I think now that we've heard the front side of this conversation, there's so much more in that.
It's not always about the physical road that you're driving on. So
there's so much, and that's really deep. I enjoy that one. Abby was relationships, not not for myself, but with people. That sound about right?
Yeah.
So
Well,
it's-
my relationships with, I think, the people there, the people that we went on the mission with, and then the relationships that people have there and here with God.
And I'll share mine. Mine was keep the water flowing, and that was so much with that, and it was really, but it's to keep that living water coming out of us flowing, keep that flowing there and the people, but bring it back here to keep it flowing by sharing this, and then that's what I took away. Sam had actually, she had two that I wrote down. There was actually one. You mentioned poverty,
Yeah, for sure.
and just it was just kind of overwhelming just to see it and experience it and walk in it and see just another level of that. But the one the one I highlighted was not to make my Christianity a checklist. What did that?
So I think a lot of times when you go through your spiritual path or your journey, you're like, okay, I'm going to church, I'm going to Bible study, I'm reading the Bible every day, whatever that is, and you just check it off your box. But you don't actually devote yourself. You don't take the time to do it either every day, or when you're doing it, you're only halfway there. You're like, okay, if I read for 30 minutes, then I can go play this game. Or if I read for 30 minutes, then we can go do this. And you're not actually devoting yourself and giving yourself all to it. So my overall takeaway or my overall thing for me was more so throughout my community. So I feel like I'm from Maiden, and I feel like if you ask my Maiden community right now, they'd be like, Sam, she's played softball. Sam, she played basketball, whatever that may be, athletic coach, whatever. And that's like, I feel like taking that away, that's not who I want to be known for. I don't care about the accolades. I don't care about the whatever those look like. I want to be known for being somebody's step or their stone or part of their journey of their spiritual path. How can I devote myself in that way? Especially when you get the opportunity to go with your sister. I hold a lot of pressure on myself to help be a high standard for her, even though like she's grown, she's done all these things. She doesn't need me, but I want her to see how if I do these things, that's how it can be. That's what she remembers me for when my time comes and goes, not for she was pretty good at softball, I guess. So just a different, flip around. Because my whole life was devoted to athletics, and I think I blinked and I can get a new start, a restart at what I should have done for quite some time.
And this book here that we've got is actually a book of pictures that was actually from 2018. And this was actually my first year that I went. And I had a lot of the same things y'all said, a lot of the same thoughts, a lot of the same processes, but I did come back changed. And that's actually on that trip is when through a particular one of these pictures, which I shared with y'all, that y'all wouldn't have known the context of it if I didn't share the picture with you. But through that is where I received my calling to step into ministry and redirected my life. Shut down the business and ended up, start going to seminary and all kinds of other stuff as a result of this trip through that one little moment that you have. First off, thank y'all for going. Thank y'all for committing, and thank y'all for taking that step out of that comfort zone to do that. Because it's bold to do all the paperwork, get all the shots, and get on the plane and fly across the ocean. And in 18 short hours, we got you smack dab in the middle of a third world country. Y'all like, what in the world happened? And ain't no car you can drive away in. So, and Carmen went back. So,
I went back
so
again.
if you had to give one sentence to encourage someone to either sign up and at least come to a meeting to explore what it's like, or if that's not your calling, what could you share with them to support the mission? What could you do? What word of encouragement could you give them? And whoever's first.
Okay.
Go ahead.
So I think my one word would be growth. I think a lot of people are scared of change and of that change is always a bad thing, when in reality change is not always a bad thing. I think a lot of people need to either experience something like Ghana. It doesn't have to necessarily be Ghana, but experience something as a mission trip that really changes your life and allows you to grow spiritually and personally.
I think mine is going to be take the leap. That's, I guess, not one word, 3 words,
That's
but
fine.
I think everything that you do when you grow is uncomfortable, rather that be a new job, a promotion, but you don't know if you're gonna like it until you actually take the leap. And how can you lead people that are around you if you can't even lead yourself to something new? So you don't have to go and get on the plane and do all of those things if you don't feel like that's your cup of tea per se. But being a stepping stone to somebody else's growth is already taking the leap. So rather that be financially or writing the cups or, whatever that your journey may lead you, there's always somebody that's behind the scenes that makes it where we can have those experience of new spiritual growth or whatever that is. So I think just take the leap.
I would default. I work in recovery a lot in my professional life, but one of the things that we say is you grow through what you go through. So again, whatever that is, if that's you going to Ghana, if that's you serving here in the church, if that's you being the support financially, prayerfully, I can tell you that if you are praying for missionaries, even if you never know it, your prayers are working. They are felt, they're being answered. And so if you're not growing, you're stagnant, and the part of life is growth. And so whatever part of this that you want to take away, find something in God that is going to help you grow spiritually and grow closer to God. Whatever that is, find that and do that. And then whatever the next step is, I promise you, God does not ever ask you to step anywhere that his foot has not already been. And I'm not saying that's like always easy, because I done confessed all that to y'all.
Cool. I enjoyed this. We need to do this more often.
I'm
We'll
good
get
for it.
some
Makes
more
me
people
feel
around
good.
the table. So
That's
good to
something
remember
we picked
and
up
think
where
back
Yeah,
on it.
get all your team here.
Yeah, we'll do it. So, yeah, all righty. Well, thank y'all for joining us. If you're interested in exploring the Ghana mission, please check in, send us an email, check in at the connections desk, or reach us online. We'd love to talk with you, and we hope you enjoyed this time, and we hope to do this again.